Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. If this is your first time watching my content or visiting the channel, please give it a thumbs up or like and subscribe. I don't know, it makes me feel like a real YouTuber and I feel like I have to say that. But essentially the goal for my content is to provide researched, non-biased information about engineering, software engineering, tooling, open source, DevOps, you name it. I'm gonna try to do it all. I'll try to roll them out weekly or bi-weekly depending on how busy my life gets. I do have 7 dogs, so sometimes it's hard. I have a busy life, but I'm gonna try to roll out content for you guys. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments, send them to me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. But anyways, let's jump into the video. Now, today we're gonna be talking about OpenTelemetry versus Prometheus. And this is a debate in what I'm hearing across the community, across my customers on a day-to-day basis is what do I use for data aggregation and collection? Do I use Prometheus for metrics? Do I use OpenTelemetry for metrics? Do I use both? What do I do, right? And I don't think it's my job to tell you what is the right approach. I think everyone has a method to the madness, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I do think there's pitfalls anywhere you go. But what I'm here to do is just try to help clear the muddied water in terms of what these two technologies do. And then you can make the decision for yourself on what's useful for your team. So, OpenTelemetry, or OTel, is viewed more as a full observability suite. Now, like I said, and like I've mentioned in other videos, really observability comes down to telemetry data, and telemetry data makes up logs, metrics, or traces. If I wanted to collect all of those under one umbrella, that's what OpenTelemetry's goal and vision is. How do we centralize those 3 data types into one collector and then pushing it out somewhere? OpenTelemetry isn't a way to visualize data by any means. You can't query for it in OpenTelemetry, you can't visualize, you can't alert, right? It's just more of a means for instrumenting, which is creating data from your application and forwarding it to a collector, which collects logs, metrics, and traces and then sends it out somewhere. So you'll need a proprietary tool, something like Grafana, something like Logs.io, something like New Relic, Datadog, and so forth. And Prometheus is not really that, right? Prometheus is a full time series or metrics suite. It allows you to collect that data. It allows you to alert yourself on that data, query it, visualize it, right? And it does kind of all these things very, very well. And Prometheus has been around for, I think, since 2012. So it's been around for quite some time, and it's one of CNCF's most popular projects. So I will never tell anyone not to use Prometheus. I'm a huge advocate of it. I actually did a talk on Prometheus, which I'll link above. But essentially what it comes down to is, what does your team need? Do you need just a monitoring suite for metrics? I don't think that's always the case. I think most of the time it comes down to, I also need logs, I also need traces to get a holistic view of my environment. And some people will run log collectors like FluentBit, FluentD, FileBeat, Vector, the list goes on. And then some people will run OpenTelemetry or Jaeger, Zipkin for tracing, right? And you have these 3 different tools and they're pushing data out and it's hard to manage. OpenTelemetry aims to solve that. And I think it does a pretty good job. Now, I do think Prometheus has the leg up when it comes to exporters and support. I think there's a lot of tools that automatically push it out that Prometheus can just scrape from, which is really great. I think OpenTelemetry also does a very good job at this, but it's still a little bit behind from what I've seen. And what I will say about OpenTelemetry as a pro is it does something called delta temporality. And delta temporality essentially takes 2 data points and it calculates the differences between. So let's take a real example, right? Let's say I have a data point that's scraped and it's the number 10. Scrape it again, 20. delta is going to say, what is the difference between those? Okay, it's 10. That's going to be my data point. And that can be helpful for things like pod restarts in Kubernetes and monitoring those. However, Prometheus doesn't support delta temporality. It only supports cumulative. And cumulative still is powerful, and there's a lot of cool things Prometheus can do with the rate function, which I'll link above. But essentially, I think it comes down to, do you want to aggregate everything into one collector, or do you want to have 3 different tools to monitor your data, as Prometheus only does time series data? So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video.